Welcome everyone. In this presentation, we'll be talking on the topic behavioral and competency-based interviewing. So we will identify what are the advantages of competencies-based interviewing, what are the methods of behavioral-based interviews, and the pros and cons thereof, right? So basically, what is exactly the goal of this particular presentation? Let us try to understand the goal. First and foremost is to improve our accuracy. Yes, definitely, yes, we are trying to improve our accuracy as far as recruitment is concerned. We also are trying to reduce our risk as in the risk management capacity and definitely to increase our efficiency in terms of time and in terms of money involved out there. So we will be trying to saving on time cost, money cost, probably having a correct correct hiring and probably managing risk thereof. So behavioral based interview. Let us begin with definition. Behavior, what exactly is it all about it? It is how you exhibit in during your past, present, the objective predictors of future behaviors as ascertained. So based upon your past interactions, based upon your present interventions, probably we will be able to predict your future behaviors, right? So that is what an extrapolation is all about it. Behavior is anything that people do, anything that can be observed, anything that can be measured. The the focus is to predict based on behavior rather than trying to understand and assess personality. We'll talk about behavioral psychologists believe that behavior remain consistent in similar situation at all point of time. Intuitions and gut feelings are less objective and probably are often difficult to justify as the case might be. This is what we are looking forward to all together every moment, every time that has been there. So yes, let us understand what is meant by behavior, as in the present and past interventions, and probably extrapolating it towards a future intended behaviors. So behavior remain, as far as the psychologists are concerned, behavior remain more or less consistent and an integral part of a person's character. So benefits. Benefits is to focus on key hiring criteria. Criteria to be based on decisions and rating. Provides a consistent documenting system as the case might be. We're talking about transfers to training and performance assessment. Ensuring fairness, reliability and validity. Remove personal biases. Contributes to the overall performances. Legally defensible. Elements and understanding about applicants and past experiences. We'll talk about behavior to reduce the applicant faking around. People actually claims a lot many things in their resumes. In fact, when they come into practical usage, you see that they are actually do not possess the requisite skills or even the knowledge thereof, which they keep on claiming. So prevent personal impression from affecting the evaluation process thereby. This is what we are looking forward to as far as benefits are concerned. Let us understand the research. What type of people do we work with best? Now, this is what needs to be understood. A person who is transparent, a person who is real, a person who does not fake things. I think it is better to look a person with not only positive, but everybody is having certain negative attributes towards himself or herself. That is what makes a person complete. A person cannot be all positive. If the person is full of positive, he or she is not less than the almighty altogether. So how would other people describe you? Can we understand what we are of consistent, what are my pluses and what are my negatives? So what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what type of work that you do best? Do you work best when you are alone, or will you will work best when you are with a team? Do you are you tech savvy or you are people savvy, as the case might be? So that is the characteristic that you look for in an ideal job. What do you want in this job per se, and why? The reasons is, why should we hire you? What do you want to know most about us? What type of people do you work best with? What do you think this role should be like, as in case the question remains? What is we are looking into it? Research shows that interviewers who use these types of questions to select their people scored approximately, and I recall approximately 26% more on the accuracy scale. So yes, on a behavioral interviews, you will be able to predict at least one-fourth of the time you will be correct and more precisely correct than the other interview skills are all about it. when interviewers using structural behavioral question, they score mostly about 70%. That means approximately more than two-thirds. Definitely more than two-thirds, almost three-fourths of the times your accuracy level improves on a behavioral structure. But when people are scored on a normal interview basis, they are probably one-fourth of the time they are hitting the bullseye. But when we are talking about behavioral structured questions and interview being based on behavioral interviews, you are increasing your chances more than two-thirds, probably in and around three-fourths of the times. For every four candidate you select, three times you will be correct in your assessment. So that is approximately 70% of the accuracy scale that is going around it. So let us develop the selection step. Number one, foremost thing, the baby step, the first step is all about the job. It is not about the incumbent. It is about the job. You have to analyze the job. You need to analyze the job in terms of skills and the qualities that is required. And probably based on this skills, qualities, knowledge, attitude, you will have to develop pertinent question. Now, this question can be administered during the interview process. And based on this responses, will you evaluate the behavior? And that is what the selection steps would always be across it. Let us understand, analyze the job thereby, build a realistic profile based on the job description, identify typical attributes of successful people doing the same or similar job. Most of this will be intangible virtues, not things that people can be trained to do so or be so. Harder to change behaviors, easier to train skills at the level that needs to be understood every now and then. And this is what we should come across. Step number two is define skills. How should the incumbent perform these duties? The duties that the particular position entails around it. What are the implicit behavior and explicit behavior required to perform on the job? So you need to understand the behavioral aspect, what kind of personality will suit that particular profile. Is it a technical skills or is it a people skill? Is it a performance skill? What we are looking at into it. We need to ascertain the skills that comes into the step number two. There are five steps to it. Remember, we have been speaking about the steps thereby. Let us identify the technical skills. Now, what are we looking into it? We can have the technical knowledge that comes around it, which needs to be taken care of. Yes, this is the technical knowledge that needs to be done. We can be looking at management of team viewers, team players, related educations and training, social work, accounting, and counseling, as the case might be. There might be a written a successful funding proposal or at least 3 years of experience. Now, what am I trying to see? I am trying to understand the efficacy of the person altogether. Will he or she be delivering on the job from the day one, week one, or month one? What are the time span that we are looking into? Is knows how to use the 10 key calculators. Experience with the community is what we are looking around here. This is the technical skill that we're talking about every now and then in during our selection process altogether. Now let us talk about the performance skills. If you look at it, yes, there are performances issues that comes around. We need to be independent. We have to be self-motivated, caring, good listeners, ability to cope with pressures, with stress, with time schedule, writing ability as a leader. What about a team player that you go around? Action oriented, mediator, ethical, should be advocate around and analytical part about it. So these are things that comes to your notification. These are the performance issues of a person every now and then that needs to be taken across. Let us understand the skills in detail. Now there are competencies. Well, we'll talk about three competencies in this particular slide. Number one being the organization and planning. According to organization planning, can the person be asked for multitasking, or probably will able to understand what are priorities, what are the importance of doing the work, show a systematic approach to reaching the goals, and demonstrate the attention to detail. That is what we are looking forward to. They relate well with others, able to work cooperatively, effectively build rapport, credibility, communicates effectively and responds maturely, respect different perspective altogether, and are able to compromise. This is what we look across it. Now let us understand as a team player, value inputs and expertise of others. Is a team player, is he or she a participated, use open communication, demonstrate professionalism, maturity, and while maintaining a sense of humor. We are talking about approachable, respectable, and is willing to learn from others. mistake and probably assisting them as on when on basis as the case is concerned. So let us go about decision making skills or problem solving skills. We are talking about performance skills and the behavioral question, how do we go good at it? So good problem solving often requires careful review of facts and weighing of options. Describe a really challenging fundraising idea that you have implemented. Probably you've considered even the risk associated with it in terms of community impact, the resource availability, and when you're implementing your plans. Let us look at the success factors indicators. Let us identify, address potential barriers to accomplish results at the outset, very outset, at the very beginning part of it. Consider inputs from others, develop contingency plan in advance, and implement ideas which are successful, which are well received by the community in the first place. Moving to the step number 3 of the 5-step process of selection, we'll talk about group exercise. Let us talk about the job description. Can we understand, decipher the job description in detail? Identify 4 key performance skill competencies. For each performance skill, list 2 or probably 3 behaviors, not beyond that. Develop a behavioral questions for each of these competencies, each of this behavior, each of the skills that is required. Again, repeating upon it, take out with the job description, find out what are the important parameters that needs to be accomplished to a certain you are successful in that job. Based on those parameters, what are the exhibit behaviors that you need to be displaying about? You need to be a reserve person, you need to be a genial person, and so on and so forth. Come up with 2 3 behaviors and design question on those things. So let us conduct an interview, probably just an anecdotal things for you. Let us wherein a boss would always say probably something devious. For example, let us have an argument with a person who might bring a new ideas into the organization, or let us have an idea just to have a good time for the time being. That might be the ideas about conducting interview, but interview is a serious business, believe me or not. I keep talking about the star questioning. With star questioning is all about situation. S for situation, T for task, A for action, and definitely R for result. The situation or responsibility that leads to your action. You are to discuss a situation where you can elicit a situation from your respondent or the incumbent, the applicant in this case, or you can give a situation yourself to the incumbent or the applicant and probably ask them to react, come up with a solution of task or action, because then you will understand properly his or her acumen altogether, so that whether the desired result or the changes caused by the actions are available. There might be false start, there might be feelings and opinion, there might be theoretical future oriented statement and vague statement. If these are the things that comes around here, you are dealing with a wrong person. So don't go by the gut feeling, don't go by the opinion, don't go by theoretical or future oriented statement and a vague statement that comes around it. This is the responses that you should be talking about, false stars as the case might be. So obtain detail, probably probe for the information, find out, ask n number of questions to understand the efficacy of the candidate or probably the competence thereby. For example, what were you thinking when that happened? Probably any proxy situation that goes around it. What was your reactions to it? What did you actually do, as in what did you act upon it? What did you actually say? That is actually what do you respond and how do you go across with it? What did the other people say in response? What was the counter responses, counterproductive things? How did it finally turn out, as in the result that we are discussing it? What was the end result? Did you win the argument? Did you lose it? Did you come with a compromise? Did you accommodate? And so on and so forth. Is there anything else I should know about this particular situation? Probably any other ideas, any other viewpoint, any other perception that can be brought in altogether. Let us understand the interview skills, rapport building, questioning. Yes, and during the interview, make the candidate comfortable. Start with an open-ended question. Take notes, take documents, tolerate silence. There might be silence. It is always better to think it twice before uttering or making a fool of yourself. So please tolerate silence, seek contrary evidence in case things are going right for a situation, the situation which the candidate is comfortable with it. Can you reverse the situation and solicit responses? You will understand better perspective of the thought process that the candidate is supposed to display. probe questions on the skill definition, as the case might be. Yes, we are looking at the skill definition. Remember, it is not the will issue, it is the skill issue which will determine whether the incumbent or the applicant will be job fit or job ready. The will issue will make it the person to be a job ready, and these are the interview skills that we are looking forward towards it. So evaluate behaviors. In case I have given you a pick out here, in case if you are part of an interview, can you enable that interview to have a panel among it, because that removes any sort of biasness that might creep in. It will you will see there will be other panel members who will be rating on a different scale, somebody on 5.5 and somebody on a 10 scale in this particular pick that I've showed it to you. So you can very well make an average of it and come with the competence level of of the applicant. That removes any biasness altogether. So evaluating candidates, we'll talk about assessing the candidate against the success factor that you're evaluating, assessing strength of evidence the candidate present in your behavioral interviews. Document. I repeat again, document your evaluation time and again, as the case might be. You are looking for the right things to happen to it. So, yes, why not go about? I'll be giving you the some tips for success before I wind up this particular presentation. First, be objective, be fair, be equitable to all eligible candidates. Know the job requirement, do your homework thoroughly, develop selection criteria. That is what is required at the end of the day. We should always ensure that we have a very good structured interview plan. Use behavioral interview questions that ask for specific example. Begin the interview by establishing a rapport in order to put the applicant under ease. And if possible, ask open-ended questions, because at the end of the day, the more you listen, the better it is for you to understand or comprehend the qualities of the candidate thereby. So common errors, as far as the interview is concerned, the interview talks more, probably more than the candidate, probably wasting valuable time. Hiring decisions are based on first impression and gut instinct. Again, this is something which should be avoided. The interview asks inappropriate or potentially illegal questions. There are many things that is not appreciated in the modern day. The same general questions are used for every position, making it difficult to judge if a candidate is right for a specific job or not. Interview disagrees on which candidates to hire because they cannot agree on which characteristics are most important for the success of the job, as the case might be. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. I'm sure you must have understood as far as the behavioral and the competency based interviews are required. Thank you once again for watching this video.